Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Mike Harvey. I'm the superintendent for the Masconomet Regional School District. And tonight we have our first of two finalists for the position of Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. This is Mr. Brad Denton. So I'm going to give Brad a couple of minutes to introduce themselves, and then the format for tonight is really just open forum for questions and answers. So what I'd ask people to do is to use the raise hand feature, should be in the reactions on your taskbar down at the bottom. When you do that, I'll set you up to unmute you, and then you can ask your questions, and Brad will give us his best answers. We are recording this for future viewing, and while Brad's giving his introduction, I'm going to post a link to a feedback form that goes to a Google Sheet where you can leave your impressions of the candidate. And I will definitely read all of those and use those as part of my decision-making process. So without any further ado, here we go. Brad Denton, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming out to meet with me. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I can answer any questions that you have. I do see, some familiar faces on here, but people who, aren't familiar with me or who don't know me, I came to Masco in 2006 as a special education teacher. Spent 3 years as a teacher, and I've been in my current role as Assistant Director of Student Services since 2009. In my role currently, I have a lot of sort of, various responsibilities. I think as any probably assistant does, you're kind of, plugging into different things. But during my time here, I have, pretty much covered the gamut with this job in terms of, supervising staff, in terms of managing all of the out-of-district placements that we have. I currently also am the, for lack of a better term, the summer principal who manages our credit recovery summer school, as well as our student services, special ed, extended school year services. That, is probably one of my favorite jobs. It's, it's in the summer, but it's working with a fantastic group of people who are some of the best, team players in the district. We all sort of pull together to provide an engaging and fun and educational experience in the summer. I think it's that team sort of attitude and atmosphere that, brought me to probably special education in the first place. I really think the team process for special ed is something that, that I value and that I look to sort of expand on in my role, where we're bringing people together and sort of working through problems, collaborative problem solving, working to, in the case of an IEP team, working to develop the best plan that we can to support students' education. Also, I'm married to people who know me. I'm married to a school adjustment counselor. So the social emotional programming is something that I'm definitely invested in, and it's something at Masco that I take a real interest in and expanding on that. And we've already, with Patty Bullard, we've done a great job of, building out our student support centers. And at this point, we're looking to sort of scale up what we're doing and trying to, to meet the demand, because there are some struggling students in the district for sure. That's a little bit about me. I'm happy to answer questions if you want to just sort of fire away.
Okay. So anybody, just use the reaction button there and raise your hand, and we'll get you to ask your questions.
If people don't have questions, I can start calling on them, Mike.
All right.
Looks like a Jeopardy board out here where I could just say, Dana Fowler's iPhone for 100.
Yep, I think we got one.
All right.
Mr. Gupta.
Oh, hi, Brad. My name is Mayur Gudka. I actually have 3 questions for you.
Great.
First is, what is your vision for the direction of the special education department?
Would you like me to answer them like?
Yeah, if you could answer them one by one at a time.
Sure. Yep, great. That's a great question. My overall vision, the special education department is interesting in the sense that, you know, we're based on student need, right? So we can't do too much building without identifying what the needs of students are and where we're going to meet those needs. So I envision a student services department that is highly communicative, where we're, you know, at Masco, where we're communicating with the elementary schools and sort of learning about, you know, essentially what student need is coming our way. And then being flexible and reactive sort of to meet that need. I like, we've talked about this a lot lately. I like a lot of models that are inclusive. You know, co-teaching is something that's a hot topic and we talk about a lot. I think students, you know, learn best with authentic opportunities.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's another thing that I'm, you know, a fan of. So I think, you know, a vision that includes, you know, a high degree of communication, authentic opportunities, and is inclusive. Those would be 3 hallmarks.
No, that's great. Thank you. So of all these things, should you transition to this position, what would your focus be in the first year?
Good question. The first year, I think for me would be interesting in the sense that I've been here for, you know, for a number of years to begin with. So I have a little bit of an understanding of sort of where we are in our process and what we need to do. I think I would, I'd like to spend a lot of time sort of with my staff here at Masco, and the building-based staff, and sort of looking at what we need to build towards, and using, you know, a backwards design type model. Like what do we as the school district believe we should be, you know, we should be creating, and then go about how do we create that. So it would you know, be able to be built based on what we're looking for.
Okay. And last question is, how important do you consider the voice of parents and students in the planning of the department needs? Just curious.
Yeah, no, you know, I've done, I don't know, thousands probably of team meetings in my life. And as I said earlier, that's a process that I really believe in. And, you know, critical team members in that are parents and students. So people who know me know that I'm, you know, I'm open to conversation. I'm open to ideas. I have a thick skin. I don't take things personally. So I listen to parents and students, you know, critically. It's not uncommon for students to, my office is kind of like in a secondary location. It's an office within an office, but it's open to students who've come in and, you know, asked me questions or, you know, given me feedback on things. So I value that.
Okay, no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Dexter. I have 3 students at Masco, all on IEPs. I
Yep,
think you
Erica.
remember me from a meeting last year.
I certainly do.
My question is, what are your goals? What do you feel is important for professional development? What do you want to offer your teachers for professional development?
Yeah, another great question. Professional development, one of the number one things that we need currently is time. We need time to work together. We need time to build the relationships, you know, amongst the staff, and to sort of enhance the skill set. As I had said, I really like the inclusive practices and inclusive environments. But for that to be effective, we can't just, put students with high needs in a teacher's classroom if that teacher is not, not prepared and not feeling empowered. So
Right.
I would look to, to work with the staff and work with the department heads to identify those, the teachers and the sort of the programs and the areas that we can develop.
Are there any other areas that you feel are important?
In terms of professional development?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of several areas. I had this conversation today where we were, talking that we've been hijacked a bit by COVID, but
Mhm.
the SEL is obviously currently, something that's a major concern probably across the country in classrooms. So I think
Mhm.
helping teachers, identify a struggling student and sort of be able to address that in a caring and comforting way would be something that I think would be important. I think, we've probably seen, and I know that the Tri-Town and the elementary schools have seen, some needs with language-based skills, with reading and writing. I think
Mhm.
that's another area where we can look to sort of enhance what we're doing, especially as it, relates to any COVID sort of delays.
Mhm. Great, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, we got another hand up. Hold on. Silly.
Hi there. Hi, Brad.
Hey, Zoe, how are you?
Good, thanks. I'm keeping my camera off because I'm in a shared space. So after my question, I'll probably turn it off again so you don't have to watch me. But I wanted to expand on what Erica just asked with not just PD, but general guidance and tools through all the tiers of students and staff interactions. So in particular, I've been trying to learn more about trauma-informed practices. I know that your Masconomet's also been looking at executive functioning. I'm not even going to say SEL because you've already mentioned it a few times. So
Sure.
I'm interested in particular how to translate those tools and the language around it so it's accessible to teachers and parents on the day-to-day. I know that that's kind of, it's not a special ed question, it's a everybody ed question, but what comes to mind is there was a conversation about English language learners, and if you have 7 or 8 students, that's going to impact a couple of dozen teachers at least. So it only takes a few students to have the need across a lot of educators, right?
Sure.
So when you have different of these kinds of needs, how do you trickle it down? That's been my ongoing question for a while. The trickle down of those skills.
Yeah, I mean, I think what, the kind of the theme of, of professional development in general is probably time. We've sort of, I'm not exactly sure where it went, but there's not a ton of time. So we need to find time to have those. And it's really conversations that I really think a lot of these ideas and concepts need to begin with. Is just to begin having the conversations that it's kind of like with the questions that you're asking, to ask that, amongst the staff or amongst different stakeholders, and develop the process that allows that to trickle down. I'm not sure that it would just, we might need to sort of create a path for it to trickle down. So I mean, I think it's based on that, finding the time, and then having some of these conversations and sort of developing a path forward that allows that to happen. I don't know if that answered your question, Zilly, but it was. Oh. I can't hear you. I think she's muted, Mike.
Yep.
Oh,
There you go, Zoe.
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult question because if it was easy, we'd
because it's multi-layered and but I think all of the issues that are facing, schools and are facing, schools today, kids today, are complex, multi-layered problems that do require, time and start with conversations and sort of, commitment from stakeholders to engage in those conversations and look to find some common ground and build from there.
Mhm. Since I'm not muted and I don't see hands up, I'll ask one other question if that's okay.
Sure.
It's sort of, I'm kind of just thinking about what are some of the questions other people might ask if they were here. This isn't necessarily, anyway, it's a more of a representative question. A big topic of conversation is, I'm using the term pandemic recovery and learning loss. And again, there's overlap with things that have already been asked, you've already talked about, but how are you seeing the programs that are being put in place to address those going? And do you see any changes that might need to be made, to keep things in a positive direction for kids?
Right. Yeah, no, I think, some of the acceleration academies are up and running. I'm not sure, I'd have to double check the exact numbers. I'm not sure if they're, at capacity. I think initially we might have thought there would be a higher demand, but I'm not sure. So I would have to check that number. But yeah, I think, it's that again is something that's sort of, in process. I think the common belief, was that everybody was going to be farther behind. And I think, we're still kind of probably looking at data and collecting data to find out exactly, where we are and where we can, push in to help students who are behind. So yeah, that's a process, no doubt.
Okay. Anyone else? Raise your hand and we'll get you to ask your questions. Leah.
Hi, so I'm Leah. I'm one of the adjustment counselors at the high school, and I've had the opportunity, Brad, to work under you for the last 6 years. Sorry if there's kids in the background, they're coming down before bed, but I just wanted to jump off of what Zilly had just kind of been talking about with like the SEL and the trauma-informed care. And one of the things that I've been really appreciative of is that Brad's kind of jumped in at some unique times to really help support us when we needed it the most, like to process different situations that were really that were really critical in the moment, and created what is now a really important forum, I feel like, to help process situations for staff that have just, helped support a student through something, but then helping the staff afterwards. So we call it kind of a debrief meeting, but it's something that we kind of expressed an interest or curiosity in, and Brad kind of followed up and has been doing that. And not only has it been those meetings, but like the text messages at night afterwards to kind of see how we're doing. So I feel like in a way, he's really already demonstrating that trauma-informed care and the follow through and the staff support, which really then leads to additional capacity for the student support. So I just really appreciated that and just wanted to kind of chime in with that little piece, because I know it's something that I think as a mom also of a little one with some special needs, so you might be able to see on the camera right here eating my dinner, those things mean a lot. So I'm very grateful.
Make sure she eats, Leah.
Right. Thank you. Good night, Mia.
Okay, anybody else? Other questions? We're teachers. We're very good at wait time. So while we're waiting, can everybody see the feedback form in the chat? Make sure people can see it. I just saw a comment that we're getting some error messages on the link. I just closed it out, so. To give it another try. Internal error.
Are we gonna have to do this again tomorrow night, Mike?
Do this again tomorrow night? No.
All right.
We're recording this. We're all set.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to make sure something's going on with the form. I'm trying to figure out why it's not working.
Oh, the form. Okay. I thought people were
Yeah.
having trouble getting in. Okay.
No, it's the form. People are in this, no problem. Not seeing anything. That looks different on this end. Try one other thing.
There's a hand, Mike.
No. Go, Jen.
Hi. Hello, everyone. And hi, Mr. Denton. Thank you so much for being here. I am the mom of a 7th grade student on an IEP. And I was just wondering, since you have been in the system for a number of years, if there's any particular thing that that Masco and the special ed department, or some particular thing that you have personally overseen or been proud of, that you think is working particularly well, even if it's just anecdotally, something that is sort of a feel-good moment for Masco and special ed.
Sure. You know, I like to think that there are, you know, a lot of things that are working well. I think I touched on it earlier. One of my, you know, favorite things is what we do here in the summer. You know, I think the idea of a student, you know, continuing their education in the summer to most kids is probably not, not highlight real material. But we have a group that works here in the summer that puts on a really, really engaging and educational experience. And we have, kids who show up at, 7:45 in the morning with smiles on their faces, and they leave at 1 o'clock with smiles and see you tomorrows. And so that type of excitement is something that, I like to think of it as it's kind of what education would look like without, all the mandates and without the MCAS and without, it's really, experiential and hands-on and fun. And that's something that I'm, really particularly proud of. Thank you for the question.
Okay, I think I put the unshortened link in the chat, and it seems to be working for people as I'm getting responses. So can use that one. I'm laughing. Yeah, I just saw that too. Anybody else have any questions? Just raise your hand. Silly.
I'm in a different spot, and it's
Oh.
just too early to let you go. And I just, I wanted to, I literally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing. It was a good question. I lost it.
I had a good answer for it, though. I want credit for the answer.
Your answer was so good. It was so good.
That's excellent.
I'm so sorry. I had to change locations in the midst, and I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Oh, I remembered it. Do you have thoughts about preventative programs for any of the needs that we're seeing in abundance?
Yeah, sure. We're, some of us have joined a school mental health leadership institute where universal screenings are things that we're exploring. So that's, I think, exciting to the school adjustment counselors on the call, but it should be exciting to everybody because it allows us to be much more proactive and sort of get ahead. I think today, probably multiple times, I said we have some really great services and counselors and programming, but we might be, it might be hard to scale that up. We can't have, one-on-one sessions for every student with the adjustment counselors. So we need to get sort of different interventions at different times and try to get earlier in the, in the students, in their sort of mental health experience to try to get ahead of some of that. Interestingly, it's also something that we're talking about doing with reading. We've had meetings and we've talked about, doing universal screenings and, starting in the 7th grade and trying to, get a grip on different students reading and, if there are, if there are, you know, holes or, you know, areas of need before it sort of becomes problematic in the students, you know, in their education. You know, you can identify it earlier and sort of target it. So those are two things that I think are exciting and are probably, you know, we're ready for.
Okay. Let's have a last call for questions. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Brad to kind of give Brad the opportunity to have any closing remarks, and we'll send everybody home. So you can finally get out of your office.
All right.
Yeah, Brad.
Last call on questions. Once, twice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, thank you to the, you know, the people who showed up and who listened. I know, you know, it's a Monday night, so attending a Zoom and listening to me is probably not anybody's priority number one, but I do appreciate it. I think, you know, hopefully when you sort of, you know, reflect on this time or on, you know, any interactions that you've had with me, you know, some of you guys I've known on here, I'm looking and I've known some of these names for years. I think, you know, when you reflect, hopefully it's sort of, you know, comes across that I'm, you know, I'm honest, I'm straightforward, and I'm passionate about Masco. And I've, you know, willing to listen and willing to sort of dig in and do the work. So I appreciate you coming out and listening to me tonight.
Okay. So yeah, I think we have the link that works there in the chat again. So it's the longer one. Note to myself to not shorten the link anymore. So again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate your comments and feedback in advance. And I also want to thank Brad for making it through a very long day. He started, you know, he worked a full day and then started interviewing at 11 o'clock this morning. So it's been a long day, and I'm sure he's tired. So thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
and thank you all. Good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody.